All right, hello, fantastic CWI 101 students. I wanted to spend some time just walking you through what's out there for your second learning module and also just provide a little bit of feedback as we've wrapped up that first learning module and get ready to move into that second one. So with that, first I'll actually probably provide a little bit of feedback. So the first thing that I wanted to highlight is be checking your grade center. So some of you have gone in and taken a peek at your grades and you've seen some of the feedback that I've left you and you've responded to me with an email and corrected that so that I could go back in and give you the points that you needed. So a really good example of that is that Blackboard badge. So you'll remember in that first video announcement, I talked about not sending a screenshot of the quiz, that you actually needed to go back to your badge book and send me the actual badge with your name showing that you completed that. So be checking your feedback. This is where you really know how to maximize your points for the semester. So I really encourage you to always be checking your grades. If you submitted something and there's a 0 there, there should be some feedback that explains why there's a 0 there. And then you can correct that. If you submitted something and you only got a 15 out of 20, there's feedback there explaining why you got a 15 out of 20. So definitely be checking your feedback so that you know how to maximize your points in this class. I always tell students, everyone can get an A. You just have to make sure that you are paying attention to those necessary due dates and that you're checking your feedback, because I'm very transparent in terms of how I grade your assignments so that you can, again, maximize those points as we're moving throughout the semester. So be checking your feedback. A lot of you sent me emails over the week with questions. Please continue to do that. I'm more than happy to help as you are navigating your first semester, the use of Blackboard, and then really just like the reality of this is how this instructor teaches this course and this is what I need to do in order to be successful. So like I said, I'm very transparent. There's really nothing that I try to hide from anybody. So definitely reach out if you have questions or are needing help with anything. So as we're moving into week 2, or module 2, if you will, I wanted to just talk you through the logistics of what's out there so that you knew what to expect, and then maybe give you a few of my thoughts around some of those things. So you'll notice your checklist is out there. You've got some things that you need to do. The first thing is your reading. So you should have your book by now, The Omnivore's Dilemma, and you're going to start reading chapter 1 and chapter 2. So, and this is pretty standard reading for a module. So you just want to make sure that you're cruising through that. I always encourage students before they even start reading to go out and take a look at what those discussion board questions are so that they can then be thinking as you're reading how to respond to some of those questions. These first 4 modules, we will focus on corn. It's all about corn. And so for a lot of students, they're like, seriously, by the time we get to the last module, they're like, I'm so sick of corn. I could just like, I'm over it, right? But this is the reality, right? Corn has really entered our food system. It's a big part of our Western diet. And if you haven't really thought about it, over these next 4 weeks, you will be thinking a lot about it. When I teach this course in person, I do an exercise where I have students move to the side of the room if they agree or disagree with certain statements. And one of the statements, and it's very fitting for this class, if I am what I eat, the reality is almost 80% of what we eat is corn or soy. And so they actually tested like a strand of human hair. So you can take your hair, you can run it through a system, right? Chemistry. I'm losing track of what the actual machine is, but a spectrometer. You can run it through that and it will actually give you specific information related to percentages of what's found within the diet related to that test result. So it's interesting to think that 80% of our diet is corn or soy. Whereas if you look at human hair from somebody who lives in Europe, for example, theirs is like less than 10%. So it is pretty incredible to think about how corn has entered our food system and the reality behind every single way in which corn is in our food system. So we will talk a lot about corn. It's a little bit of a soapbox for me, but hopefully throughout the next several modules, you'll begin to recognize just how much corn plays a large role in our Western diet. So that discussion board, like I said, one of the tips and tricks that I gave you was to copy and paste this into a Word document. Then you can start answering those questions. Remember that I want you to copy and paste that back out into your actual discussion board. So when you go out to launch this discussion board, you will need to make sure that you are making that post to your peers. And so make sure that you copy and paste that information back in after you've created that thread so that your peers can actually see it and don't have to click on an attached document or something to go out and review that. So completing your discussion board this week, make sure you're paying attention to the requirements. So each response has to be no less than 3 to 5 sentences. You've got essentially 5 questions there that you're being asked related to those 2 chapters of reading. And then make sure that those replies to your peers are thoughtful. So I want to just give a quick, what is a thoughtful reply? Because I was looking at some of your week 1 discussion boards and I gave a little bit of lenience here. But as we move forward, I will probably be a little more strict about this. Those thoughtful replies should be a paragraph. And that's again, like a 3 to 5 sentence reply. And it's not 3 to 5 sentences. I agree. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. That's not a thoughtful reply. So as we're looking at this, you might read somebody's response that says, I found ketchup in my pantry. And I was really surprised to find that ketchup had high fructose corn syrup, which is derived from corn. So you might respond and say, I also found ketchup in my pantry, and it's super crazy to think about the reality behind corn being the first ingredient within something that I would believe, ketchup, tomatoes would be the first ingredient. So make sure that you're really like thinking through and responding in a way that is a response that is thoughtful and provides some sort of context and further continues the discussion. That's the intent of a discussion board. It's not to just check a box and say, yay, we got this taken care of, move on. Make sure that you are replying with what I'm calling thoughtful replies. You're also going to notice on your checklist that you do have a new student survey that talks about what motivates you. So you will need to launch this survey. There's no right or wrong answer. So don't be panicked about, oh my gosh, this is really just for me to better understand the students that are in the class and where you're at. So one of the questions is, are you a first generation college student? And do you feel like you have the support systems in place that you need in order to be successful? I was a first generation college student and I did not have the people in place to help me be successful. And so it was nice to, along the way, have some people at my college that were there to support me, guide me, and really say, like, you've got this. So you will complete that. Make sure that you're ready. You're going to launch that survey and then go through and answer those short answer questions. Every week we talked about having a Let's Connect assignment. So this week we talk about motivation, right? So it is that whole what motivates you and how do you navigate really this complex system of adding college on top of everything else, right? So a lot of you are busy students. You probably have jobs, you might have families. We're in the middle of a global, I think they've now said endemic, right? And so how are you navigating sickness? And if you have kids in school, how are you navigating the nuances of having kids in school and those sorts of things? So there's a short video here that just talks about breaking down barriers and not accepting limits. And then you have an assignment related to that. And so I would encourage you to take these 3 questions that are posed right here. And again, I would copy and paste those into a Word document, and then you can answer those questions. So the 3 questions are: the world puts differences in a box. What differences do you feel the world has placed on you or you've been told you can't do? I think about myself as a woman in the workplace and just the reality behind being a woman, a working woman with a family, with a baby nonetheless, right? So think about some examples that you can share with me. Once you have those, I'm actually telling you that you can attach your Word document to this assignment. This is something that only I will see. So feel free to attach that Word document. You can browse your files here. You can add a comment if you want, and then just make sure you submit that so that I can see your final version of that. So those are the things that must be completed this week. The other thing that I'm introducing you to this week, but you don't necessarily have to complete this week if you don't want to, is your pre-test. So you'll notice over on the left-hand side, there is a pre-test option here for you to start navigating through. This isn't something that I see. This is something that goes to really the college as a whole. So gathering information about our students, who we're serving, those sorts of things. So again, no right or wrong answer. You'll actually have 2 learning modules to work through this. So this isn't due until the end of the 3rd learning module. Like I said, you can certainly do this now, or if you're trying to just digest what's out there for your week 2 material, go ahead and hold off until your 3rd learning module. Just know that you've got a couple weeks to work through that. So that is a crash course to your week 2 information. If you do have additional questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out. Like I said, I've been very, very responsive to emails. I'm in my office hours. If for whatever reason you log into my office hours and the microphone is muted and the video is muted, it might be because I'm feeding a baby, and know that I will pop back in, or just shoot me a quick message via email and I'll respond as soon as I can. So it's been a little sporadic with office hours and having a newborn. So with that, I hope that you're feeling good about what you did for your week 1 information, and you're ready to rock and roll with week 2 and be introduced to the wonderful world of corn. I hope you all have a fantastic week.